prisoner who was sentenced to 8 years. How would he escape from jail? Let's find out. The movie opens with several prisoners being transported to a high-security prison. This prison was built especially for dangerous criminals, and escaping from it was considered impossible. Inside, some of the most notorious inmates were locked up. As the plane was taking off, a prisoner named Cyrus had hidden a pin under the skin of his hand. He used it to unlock his handcuffs. Meanwhile, another prisoner named Parker started pulling a thread from his mouth, which revealed a small pouch. Inside it were a matchstick and a tiny can filled with oil. At Cyrus's signal, Parker sprinkled the oil on a fellow prisoner, then lit the match and threw it on him, setting him on fire. The chaos distracted the guards, giving the inmates their chance. Parker managed to steal the cell keys and unlocked one of the gates, freeing a massive, terrifying prisoner. He immediately began attacking the guards. Amid the chaos, Cyrus fought his way toward the cockpit. The pilot tried to stop him, but Cyrus overpowered him and killed him. Then he pointed a gun at the co-pilot, ordering him to report to ground control that there was a weather issue with the plane, but everything was under control. This way, the authorities on the ground wouldn't suspect what was really happening. Cyrus was the only one with a gun, and he now had the entire plane under his command. Among the prisoners on board was Cameron. Lost in thought, he began remembering his past. Cameron had once been a captain in the army. On leave, the first thing he did was go see his wife, who worked at a bar. She was overjoyed to see him. The couple embraced tightly, thrilled to be reunited after so long. Soon, Cameron learned that his wife was pregnant. They were going to be parents. Filled with joy, they danced together. But their happiness didn't last long. A thug walked in and began harassing Cameron's wife. Cameron grew furious and wanted to teach him a lesson, but his wife stopped him. They ignored the man and continued dancing. However, the thug and his gang didn't leave. Instead, they followed the couple outside, cornered them, and began harassing them again. This time, the thugs went too far. They mocked Cameron's military uniform and tried to provoke him. Cameron lost his temper. Unable to hold back, he fought back fiercely, beating them one by one. During the fight, one of the thugs attacked him with a knife, but Cameron defended himself, and the thug ended up dead. Cameron was taken to court, where he was labeled a murderer and a danger to society. Despite only defending his wife, he was sentenced to 8 years in prison. The next day, Cameron was sent off to serve his sentence. Though he wasn't truly guilty, he had no choice but to endure. Months later, he received a letter in prison telling him that his wife had given birth to a son. Cameron was overjoyed. Though he couldn't meet his son yet, his wife kept sending him letters and photographs of their baby, trying to keep his spirits up and help him manage his anger. Inside prison, Cameron remained calm and disciplined. He focused on reading books and working out every day, determined to stay strong. More than anything, he longed to finish his sentence, walk free, and reunite with his wife and son. Inside the prison, there was another inmate who suffered from diabetes, but he had become Cameron's good friend. 8 long years passed this way, and now Cameron was about to be released. But before that, the authorities decided to transfer him and other prisoners by plane to another facility. The responsibility for this operation was given to U.S. Marshal Vince Larkin. To keep an eye on things, Larkin even planted one of his own men among the prisoners to secretly report on what was happening. The prisoners were loaded onto the plane, and the transfer began. Now the story shifts back to the present. The plane had been hijacked. The female guard was taken hostage along with the rest of the crew. Cameron, now unshackled, noticed that one of the convicts had his eyes on the female guard with bad intentions. Furious, Cameron grabbed the inmate and threw him aside. The other prisoners stepped in to calm things down. Soon, one of the prisoners announced that the plane was about to land. Everyone had to act normal, so the authorities on the ground wouldn't suspect anything. But then, the undercover agent, posing as a prisoner, suddenly drew his gun on one of the inmates. Everyone froze in shock. Cameron tried to reason with him, telling him not to be reckless and to lower his weapon, but the agent refused. Just then, Cyrus intervened and killed the undercover agent. The plane was moments away from landing. 6 inmates were scheduled to be transferred to another prison facility, but 3 of them were already dead. Cyrus quickly picked 3 replacements from among his men and included Cameron as one of them. But Cameron didn't want to get off the plane. He lied, telling Cyrus he still had 15 years left on his sentence and wasn't ready to risk it. Cyrus accepted the excuse and told him to put on the dead guard's uniform so no one would suspect anything. Cameron complied, disguised himself as the guard, and escorted the 6 prisoners off the plane. While wearing the uniform, Cameron found a tape recorder in the guard's belongings. Secretly, he slipped it into the pocket of one of the departing prisoners, hoping it would reach the authorities and reveal what was happening on board. The plane landed. The 6 prisoners were escorted out without raising suspicion. Police officers standing nearby didn't realize the plane had been hijacked. The prisoners were loaded onto a transport bus. Meanwhile, inside the plane, one of the inmates, an extremely intelligent criminal, activated a device designed to jam signals. With it, the authorities wouldn't be able to track the plane or detect its exact location. Back on the ground, as the transport bus carried the 6 prisoners away, the planted tape recorder fell out of one inmate's pocket. When the guards picked it up and played it, they discovered the truth about the hijacking. The senior officials immediately wanted to blow the entire plane out of the sky, but Marshal Larkin stopped them. He argued that there were innocent people on board, and they shouldn't be punished for something they hadn't done. Inside the plane, Cyrus and his men were now fully in control. Cyrus dreamed of escaping the country to live a free life somewhere far away. Meanwhile, Cameron quietly returned to his seat. His diabetic friend was getting weaker and weaker. Cameron knew that if his friend didn't get his medicine in time, he would die. Cyrus's men were flying the plane. One of them, acting as the pilot, noticed something strange and told Cyrus that there might be an engine malfunction. He asked Cyrus to send someone to check. Cyrus ordered one of his men to go inspect it, but the man didn't want to go alone. That's when Cameron volunteered to accompany him. The two of them went down into the lower section of the plane, near the engines. There, they discovered a dead body. Cyrus's man told Cameron to throw the corpse out of the plane, but before tossing it, Cameron secretly wrote something on the victim's clothing so that when the body was discovered, the authorities would know where the plane was headed. After hiding the message on the body, he pushed it out of the plane. The corpse plummeted through the sky and crashed onto a car below, completely destroying it. Cyrus's man began to grow suspicious of Cameron, but Cameron quickly distracted him with smooth talk, careful not to reveal his true identity as a former army captain. If anyone found out, both he and his sick friend's lives would be in grave danger. Meanwhile, the authorities on the ground were confused, still unable to locate the plane. Marshal Larkin suspected that Cameron might still be on board. Cameron had served his time, and his wife and little boy were waiting for him. Larkin visited Cameron's wife to speak with her. She explained that Cameron was a good man, that everything he did had been to protect her, and he was unfairly punished for it. As they were talking, a woman suddenly rushed up to Larkin with urgent news. A body had fallen out of the sky and smashed onto a car in the middle of the city. There was writing on the clothing. Larkin immediately began to calculate what that meant. Within moments, he realized the body had fallen from the very same hijacked plane carrying Cameron, and that Cameron was trying to send him a message. Larkin pieced together Cameron's plan and figured out the plane's current location. But when he tried explaining it to his superiors, they dismissed him, insisting on relying on the tracking device, which had been jammed by the convicts. Seeing the urgency of the situation, Larkin jumped into his car and headed out on his own. Back inside the plane, the prisoner who had accompanied Cameron earlier was secretly reviewing the manifest list. When he spotted Cameron's name, he realized that Cameron was an army man and that he had lied to everyone about who he really was. Later, when Cameron returned, he saw the convict holding his son's toy, a gift he had carried with him for years. Rage boiled inside him. He thought the convict had figured him out, and he lunged to stop him. A brutal fight broke out between them. In the struggle, the convict was killed. Cyrus remained unaware that his ally had died. Soon after, plane was forced to make an emergency landing in an open field. The landing was rough. Several parts of the aircraft broke apart as it skidded to a stop. Cyrus was about to execute the surviving guards, but Cameron stepped in at the last moment, stopping him. Cameron argued that the guards could still be useful if they were put to work. Convinced, Cyrus spared them and forced both the guards and other prisoners to help repair the damaged plane. While everyone was busy with the repairs, Cameron slipped away, pretending to search for fuel. Instead, he headed toward a nearby area, looking for a way to signal Marshal Larkin about the dire situation. But before he could act, a gang of armed thugs showed up. They moved in to kill him. Outnumbered, Cameron had no choice but to fight back with everything he had. Just then, Marshal Larkin arrived and saved Cameron from being killed. But Cameron, still on edge and not trusting anyone, pointed his gun at Larkin as well. Larkin quickly told him that he had just met his wife and daughter. Cameron lowered his weapon slightly and said, "I know why you're here, but I want you to stay out of this. I'll handle it myself. There are good people on that plane along with the bad. I have to protect them." With that, Cameron walked away. Meanwhile, the authorities realized they had been tracking the wrong aircraft. The damaged plane they were following was just a decoy. When Larkin learned the truth, he immediately phoned his team and told them the real hijacked plane was right in front of him. They needed to get there immediately. At that same time, one of Cyrus's men was preparing to escape escape in another plane. But Larkin wasn't about to let him get away. Sprinting to a nearby crane, he climbed in and dropped the massive hook directly onto the plane, knocking it off balance. The aircraft veered out of control and crashed into a gas station. Furious at the betrayal, Cyrus lit the spilled fuel with a match, burning his own man alive. Moments later, a swarm of police vehicles arrived at the site. Cyrus quickly armed his men, handing out weapons and ordering them to open fire. The convicts unleashed a hail of bullets, forcing the police into a firefight. As reinforcements poured in, Cyrus realized they could never win against the authorities. He ordered everyone back onto the plane. Luckily for him, the aircraft had been repaired enough to fly, but Cyrus secretly tied the plane down with a heavy cable, planning to keep control over who escaped. Cameron, however, slipped into the storage bay and managed to save one of his friends along with a captured guard. The cable could only hold so long, and soon the plane tore free, lifting into the sky once more. Inside, the convicts were celebrating, but Cyrus grew suspicious. He believed someone among them was tipping off the police. To expose the traitor, he grabbed the female guard and threatened to kill her unless the informant stepped forward. To protect Cameron, his diabetic friend stepped up and falsely confessed. Without hesitation, Cyrus shot him, leaving him gravely wounded. Cameron knelt beside his friend, promising, "Don't worry, I'll get you out of this." Overcome with rage, Cameron snapped. He unleashed his fury, taking down Cyrus's men one by one. Meanwhile, two army helicopters closed in on a plane, one carrying Marshal Larkin and other officers. They prepared to attack, but Cameron stormed into the cockpit and contacted Larkin over the radio. He pleaded, "Don't attack, I'm slowly taking control of the plane. Give me time." Larkin relayed the message, but the officers didn't believe him. Against orders, they opened fire, riddling the plane with bullets. Forced, Larkin finally admitted, "There's one of my men inside that aircraft." The damage from the attack crippled Cyrus's plane. With no other choice, the convicts crash-landed it in the middle of the city. Police forces were already waiting, surrounding the wreck as soon as it skidded to a stop. Most of the prisoners were captured immediately, but Cyrus managed to slip away. Stealing a truck, he tried to flee, but Larkin spotted him. Mounting a motorcycle, Cameron and Larkin chased after the truck. Cameron revved hard, leapt onto the moving vehicle, and climbed aboard. A brutal fight erupted on top of the truck. Cyrus's ally attacked Cameron, while Cyrus tried to set the truck ablaze. Flames engulfed the vehicle as Cameron clung on for his life. Cyrus swung at him, trying to finish him off. The battle raged until a massive explosion ripped through the truck. Cameron leapt clear at the last second, saving himself. Cyrus was thrown into the wreckage, crushed beneath heavy machinery. His reign ended in a fiery death. In the aftermath, Cameron finally saw his wife and daughter waiting for him. Overwhelmed, he approached them. For the first time, he laid eyes on his little girl. Smiling through tears, he handed her the handmade doll he had carried with him all this time. The remaining convicts were hauled away by police. But Cameron, at last, was a free man. He walked away with his family, finally reunited. In the final scene, another prisoner is shown, one who managed to escape the chaos. He was now living it up, gambling inside a casino, free to indulge in his new life. And with that, the movie ends.